Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty. Rowena Dooley asking Sol citizens to report for duty.
Wow. Hey, greetings. Welcome to Soul Voices. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and today is Saturday, the 17th of September. We're halfway through the month, and I am excited to be here with you today on our show. We are, first of all, let me say a special thank you to my good friend Fast Cart. My microphone was far away, guys. Sorry, I know I was sounding a little soft there. Fast Cart, who covered for me last week on the show. We had a special guest, Star Jump Ender, who was on. I got a chance to watch the show. It was really cool. So thank you guys so much for filling in for me last week. It's been life has been busy. That's all I can say. And as much as I don't like canceling shows, Fast Cart wonderfully stood up. What's the word? Not stood up. What's the word I want to say? He volunteered and said that he would cover for me. So thank you, FC. Greetings to everybody who's out there. I see Pops is out there. Nomad 1701, got that NCC number in front of him. How are you? And Standard Deviation, good to see you. Yes, it's Griff. I am back this week. As you guys know, this is Soul Voices. This is our show that is our call-in show where you get to dial in, come into our Discord, talk to me one-on-one about topics that I pick from Spectrum, from Reddit, and from the industry. We've got some interesting topics for you guys today, so hopefully there will be something there. Carrie, what's up, Carrie B? And see your heart. Good to see you. So hopefully you guys will be able to jump in and give me some thoughts about some of the topics that we're going to be covering. It's been a crazy week into Star Citizen. It's been interesting because a lot of people that I've been talking to have really been saying that they've kind of been like in a on hold position because we're all waiting for this transition from 3.17.2. Waiting for Evocati to get 3.18, and there hasn't been any word about 3.18 other than what we've seen in ISC and SCL this week. So it's been interesting to see how people are. I mean, people are playing. People were obviously active in the ship show this year. You know, people were into the ship showdown. People got into the pirate stuff. I heard a little bit, but man, I haven't heard very much about the game itself. So I'm really kind of curious to see what you guys think about the topics that I picked for you this week, because I'm sure you're going to have some thoughts about some of these subjects. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to start out right in Spectrum, and this one was interesting. Let me get my little sheet here because I don't have it in place. This is the 17th. Let me get the right day in front of me. The title of this show for this week, by the way, is CitizenCon, Where is Chris Roberts? That's going to be one of our topics that we're going to talk about. But before we get into that topic, we are going to talk about some of the things that I found on Spectrum. So let's start out with the first topic here. I'm going to read this one because this is kind of lengthy, so bear with me because there's a lot to it. I couldn't fit it all on the screen. I wasn't even going to try to fit it all on the screen because it's a really, really, really big thread. So what I will do is read it to you, and then obviously you guys can come in and talk to me about it. This one, let's see, that's Siege of Orison. That's the wrong one. Which one do I want? I want this one. Bear with me here, gang. I put the wrong one up. Excuse me. The title of this was Adding Filler Stations to the Reclaimers is a tedious, emphasis on tedious, and problematic move. Now, I'm sure some of you guys watched the ISC for this week. They gave us a look into salvaging, and one of the things that was unexpected, even though we heard CIG was going to introduce salvaging to the Vulture and the Reclaimer, but they took us inside the Reclaimer and showed us how salvaging was going to work on a multiplayer level, which was something I think a lot of us were excited about and didn't expect. I'm a Reclaimer owner. I was excited to see it. But this person decided to pick a different avenue of approaching this. So why can't I find this post? Guys, forgive me. My post is not coming up here. Let me go back under Star Citizen, under concerns. Here it is here. I don't know why I have the wrong link in the sheet, guys. I apologize for that. Admiral Kusanagi, I know you're out there. I'm going to put the correct link into the chat. There's the link if you guys want to follow me. So let me read this to you. We are getting to the point that there are more jobs and stations on the Reclaimer than there are beds for the crew. That mixed together with the absurd balancing mentality going on with large ships, it seems that large ships just keep getting beaten up again and again, and all in the name of multi-crew. That will get old extremely quickly. So here's where we sit. There's one pilot seat, 2 salvager seats, 2 drone operator seats, 2 remote turret seats, 1 main turret seat, 1 cargo operator terminal, and 1 nebulous engineer terminal that will end up being somewhere eventually. Actually, his count is incorrect, by the way, because there's a pilot and a co-pilot seat, and there are scanning terminals in the back. There's a whole bunch of other positions too. There are a lot of positions. Let's not go by seats. Let's talk about different positions on the ship. We have more roles than the Reclaimer has beds now. So fine. Blades are now mandatory. He emphasizes that. So to operate a Reclaimer properly, given the absurd kill or be killed nature of large ships, where a singular torpedo means death, so you can't afford not to have turret gunners at all times. So we will take away the 3 turret roles, and that leaves us with 1 pilot seat, 2 salvage seats, 2 drone seats, 1 cargo operator terminal, and the nebulous engineer. Now, we still have more roles than beds. But okay, let's say we make the argument that nothing goes wrong with engineering and all during the salvage operation, and you have hired crew that are both good at engineering and salvaging by pure luck. Still, that leaves you with 6 roles and 5 beds. So, okay. Now let's also say that no drone operations will occur during the hull stripping, whatsoever, and the crew will have to get up and rotate seats a whole floor up just to switch roles. Then we finally have a situation where there are 4 roles and 5 beds. Are you starting to see the issue here? This nonsense of adding more busy work rather than automating it, all because multi-crew, quote unquote, is getting out of hand. And mind you, this says nothing about onboard security in case of OP Legionnaire invasion. Then all 5 of your crew suddenly have to be FPS combat experts on top of everything else. I don't know if anyone working at CIG has played something like Farming Simulator, but they really should. Maybe teach them just how quickly the notions of multi-crew quickly degrades the busy work I am going to contract out because no one wants to do it. Let me tell you what would have made sense. 5 beds, 5 roles. 1 pilot, 1 linked set of salvaging controls, 2 drone operators, 1 engineer role. All turrets automatically bladed because it's a civilian ship. Okay, boom. That's where we're going to start with this one. So this is from Kinesis, like telekinesis, Kinesis. So yeah, let's find out what you guys think. I don't know how many of you all are Reclaimer owners. This is really kind of focused on the Reclaimer more than anything, but they're saying there's a couple things they say in here. One of them is the fact that it says that multi-crew is getting out of hand. I'd like to know what your thoughts are about that, and of course, I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are in relation to this whole post. So let me bring in Calradi, Red Baron. I know one of you guys was first. I don't know who was first. So I'm just gonna randomly pick Red Baron, okay? Because Calradi's on the team. I'll bring him in first, and then Calradi, I'll bring you in, and then Pops, okay? Um, you know what? It just dawned on me. I am not even in the stream. Isn't that funny? Let me put myself in the stream. There we go. All right. Red Baron, are you there? Red Baron?
Hello?
Oh, there he is. Can you hear me? You know what? I'm not coming through on the stream. Give me
Hello,
one
can you
second.
hear me?
Yes, give me 1 second, Red Baron. I can hear you. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
Here again in this nice podcast.
Yeah. So give me your thoughts about this, about these, Kinesis says these are quote unquote filler stations. They're making up stuff to fill in these spots. What do you think about this?
Well, to be honest, I'll try not to laugh too hard. But
Okay.
first of all, there was the issue, the concern that we didn't have enough to do on the ships. And now it seems that people have a complaint that it's too much to do.
You can't win, right? You can't win.
Yeah, you cannot win. It's always the same. I think people have to just think that you have different jobs on one ship on different posts. You won't be an engineering when you are going for scrap. You only go for engineering when you're in tech. So then you go fill the post of the anti-air or the anti-air, sorry, for the for the gunner stations.
Mm-hmm.
So you switch between those jobs, so you have something to do. But people always complain about. So I think it's actually very smart for. They thought about it. Well, what the people didn't have anything to do in the meanwhile. Now they have something to do in the mean. Especially, I think it's also good they have this job to move the box on the correct spot.
Yeah.
Because later on, where you put those boxes will matter because they have the mass go left and right. So there will be some skill or at least some thought for the player to do where they put those boxes.
Right. Now,
so I don't think it's like it's a busy work or something.
Well, let me ask you this, because he's touching on two things, right? He's talking about the amount of people, and he keeps mentioning it in comparison to the beds, right? Because we know the beds are designed to log out. So if you're going out that day with your friends to do work, but you know you're going to go back to port at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Then you can have 8-10 people, right? But when you go into deep space where there's no option to fly my ship, I don't want to fly my ship all the way back. We want to log out in this asteroid belt. He's saying there's only 5 beds, right? Now, I agree. Now, CIG hasn't completely worked out this bed thing yet.
Yeah.
But someone in chat, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Red Baron, maybe can multiple people log out in the same bed? In other words, can you have 8 people, 5 beds, and all 8 people, that means a couple of the beds, 2 people will have to log out on them. But when they come back in, they'll be able to come back in the bed. I've never known there to be a restriction.
I have to do the assumption here.
Yeah, I've never known that there's a restriction. Maybe somebody in chat can tell us, but I've never known that says that just because there's 5 beds, only 5 people can log out. I know that it means 5 people can log out.
The only thing I assume is that 5 people at once can log out and log back in on the
because like
beds.
when we use the 890 or when we use the Carrick, multiple people log in and out of that bed, for the healing.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I now mind you, if he had argued and said, well, there's 8 positions, but there's only 5 beds, it'd be nice if CIG went on ahead and put in 3 more beds. I might even buy that. But it does seem like he wants to consolidate, as you mentioned, some of these roles. And it sounds like he's also assuming, as you mentioned, that as if people only do one thing. But multi-crew also means multitasking, right? It means that you could move from the scanning station to the turret if necessary, right?
Yeah, because when you're in flight, you're not going to sit there in your tractor beam seat, right? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So then you rather be more in defense role and go into one of those turrets.
Yes. That's a good point. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Red Baron. Thank you, man.
Okay. Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
me
kicking
again.
us off today, man. Thanks for kicking us off. All right, let's bring Cal Roddy in, our good friend Cal Roddy. Cal Roddy.
Hey, Griff.
Hey,
Hey,
how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Happy to
Good,
be here.
good. You got some thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I really wanted to reiterate what you exactly said. That they haven't really fleshed out this whole thing with regards to beds and logouts.
Mm.
When bed logging first came about, I can't remember when that was. It was something that was going to allow players to log out and come back in within the exact same spot. Who knows?
Mhm.
Maybe it was because of a short-term decision or short vision decision that they had based on the tech that they had developed, or it could have been something that would satisfy the player base
Mhm.
for the now. And it also connects to what the Paul Randell had said in SCL with regards to player persistent locations. Eventually, who knows, we may not need to use a bed for logging out,
Mhm.
right? But beds may add some kind of additional benefits to it.
Mhm.
So equating the amount of beds to the amount of operators or persons within the ship may or may not be super valid, especially in the long term, especially in the short term, right?
Mhm.
So yeah. Additionally, with regards to the tedious feeling, sometimes when I have some really active and very very, I would say, not beneficial is it's the right word, but some very, very useful and healthy conversations with other citizens, you tend to, I myself included, the community tends to, when they explain certain things or want certain things, we may tend to let our innate desire get the better of us with regards to certain features that we want or
Mm.
certain fears that we may exhibit. And sometimes, with regards to these things, it may come about from someone who may be operating the reclaimer and would want to operate the reclaimer solo.
Mm.
To some extent, I'm sure that he would be satisfied to have some reasonable amount of players play with him. But because of the lack of AI presence and NPC presence in ships, maybe this feeling of needing extra players, especially in the short term, may be a little too overwhelming for his experience or his desire. And these things come about. It's normal. It's unfortunately expected. So that's why I would have to say that it's best to wait for us to test it and see. It may or may not be super tedious. Who knows when you say that, hey, I need support, I need to work, I need to do the salvage operation.
Mm.
There may be persons on the shot that may be more than willing and happy to work with him.
Mhm.
So maybe his fears may come about by possibly the nervousness or fear of not having that kind of support to play that kind of salvage game for the time being. But who knows? When I first heard of this news, when he talked about it on Thursday, I was elated. I never really thought of myself as adding or being support, but I would be more than willing to actually be some kind of operator in the reclaimer.
Right.
So yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that. It's some of it. We're all in Colorado. I know we've had this conversation before about people overlaying what they want the game to be, right?
Yeah.
And it's understandable. I trust me. I get it because everybody has this dream game that they want, that they've thought about for a long time of what they think would be cool. Like when I played Eve and I used to mine, I used to dream of what it would be like to be able to actually have, be doing something with mining, not just going and turning on a laser and sitting there and
Yeah.
reading a book, right? So I have my own visions of it. I this conversation about players being able to do everything in a ship. For example, let's use the Carrack. I'm just steering off the gear a little bit here.
Yeah.
You can't shoot anybody when you're piloting the Carrack, right?
Exactly.
And so there's the argument of saying, well, if I want to take my Carrack out, I can't defend it. They need to make it so that the pilot can fire the guns. And there may be some truth to that. I mean, there may be some interesting truth to that.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's a huge amount of, when I look at the scope of what Chris is trying to design, even though it's not in the game right now, I when I read stuff and I go back to Tens to the Chairman and all the things that we've seen in CitizenCons, it seems like he's trying to create a world of cooperative play. And in some ways, that world pushes back against a world that has allowed us in gaming for several years to be able to be that person that can do everything. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we've forgotten what it's like to do cooperative play. We've forgotten what it's like to rely on our buddy. It's like trying to play D&D and you can be a cleric, a paladin,
Yeah.
a thief. But when you play D&D, you realize that there's a person in your group who's a thief who can sneak better than you can. And if you try to sneak, you may do it. But so there's this side of me that says that I know we wish we could have that level of control, but I think that there's an intentionality from CIG that there are some things that you can do a lot of. If I want to go out in that eclipse, that's me. You know what I mean? I'm out there doing that thing in the eclipse. Some of the ships allow me to have maybe like the what's the ship called, the RSI Scorpius, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I will be able to slave that second gun. You know what I mean? So that I can use both of them. But should I be able to take the hammerhead and hit a button and slave all the guns so I can use them all? No, I think that's going against what he's trying to create. Now, I don't want to speak. I don't want to say I'm speaking for Chris Roberts. I'm just saying when I look at the overarching aspect of this game, it seems like these certain ships. I own an 890. To take an 890 out by myself, okay, yeah, but you know what? The fun is taking it out with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I want to especially stress on that there, because maybe it depends especially on the experiences of that player, because one person may be totally for doing that because they've had a positive experience of being able to interact and have a positive experience with other players. But other people,
Calrati, nobody takes an aircraft carrier out by themselves.
That's true. That is true.
I'm talking about reality now. Now I know gaming isn't reality, but I am saying nobody takes an aircraft carrier out by themselves. If you paid for an aircraft carrier, you could go ahead and try and take it out to sea by yourself if you want to. But I'm just saying there's no physical way for you to be able to take advantage of everything that carrier can do. I don't care how much computer slaving you do. It's not realistic. And sometimes players, we've had this conversation before. People say, I want to be able to take my javelin out and slave it with everything. And that's just me. I'm sorry, guys, if I'm offending anybody. But with this reclaimer piece, a ship that is I'm not even sure if everybody knows all the stuff that's in a reclaimer, because some people don't own one. Yeah. But I know you're familiar with it. There are 2 scanning stations in it that you stand up at. Right next to those are 2 turrets that are there. There are 2, just an actual room dedicated for drone operations. Yep. There's 2 laser cutters who operate the lasers. And then there's a co-pilot who sits where the claw is. There's a pilot. There's a turret person upstairs in the top. There's another person at an engineering station where the grinders are. And then there's the cargo area. What did we just name? About 10 different positions in that ship? And even in the cargo area, how many people are maybe existing? Even in the squad, I think it was the Squadron 42 monthly report. I just briefly skimmed it. They're working on someone being able to operate the I think it's the overhead pulley or something for these things. So who knows? It's going to be a lot of people. And I feel like it's just the anxiety based on the experience of that player that may be kind of pushing back at them not wanting to have those kind of quote unquote filler stations, even though they haven't tested it yet. So that's why I really hope the same person who's posted this gets an opportunity to experience the positive experience, right, of working with other people to convince, to kind of change his mind into thinking, hey, this isn't actually bad at all, until at least we get NPC crew. But even so, when we get NPC crew, being able to get additional people to get a hand in doing this may not be super difficult, because persons may actually be, willing to actually, be part of this team. Okay. All right. Good point. All right, Calrati. Thank you, man. You always bring some good wisdom to us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
All right. Let's bring in Fist to Face next. Fist, you there?
Hey, how are you?
How are you, man?
All right. I thought you would have put Pops in.
Who was Pops? I'm sorry, was Pops first?
Yeah, he was.
Listen, y'all two look the same. I don't know. All right, let me. Pops, please forgive me. I'm gonna bring Pops in after you. Okay, I promise I won't forget the same.
It's no problem. It's no problem.
Okay, yeah, you can nudge him for me while you sit next to him.
Okay, no problem.
So go ahead. What's happening?
Okay, so my take on it is, and I, listening to everybody else's take, is that I get what this person is trying to say. Is all of these jobs, getting to the point where is it taking the, because summarize say, is it taking the fun out of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And I get that. I get that. But we have to understand, that number one, this is Chris' game.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes back to a conversation that I had with Kai about the point of the difference between a game and a simulator. Now, the person did mention that, did anybody in CIG ever play, farming simulator or so. And I'm quite sure this person has played simulators before too. And I don't know what those simulators have in them as far as the loops or the mechanics of them and so on and so forth. So I can't really say. But from what I'm understanding, the vision of this game is that whenever you have large ships like that, it is multi-crew. Because when I bought an Orion and I sat down with you and you explained to me about the Orion and explaining all of these different things that I have to think of, it changed my perspective of it. It didn't put a negative perspective of it, but it said, wow, okay, I like that. Because to me, that broader aspect of really communicating with people and having to have that synergy, with people in the game, to know their jobs. Right. Because, for everybody, and I get he's worried about, oh man, if I'm out in deep space or something like that, and in uncharted territory where there's no laws and somebody runs up on me and I'm not fully crewed, how can I handle this? Yeah. Yeah. And I get that. And that's a valid reason.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, because you said that, because Red Baron talked about that, right? He talked about, first of all, the assumption is even though you can name 12 positions, you don't need 12 people, right? Because some people are multitasking, right? Some people, the same guy who's doing your scanners could very easily switch over to the turrets, right? Because it's right there. Okay.
Right.
Do you think that one of the negatives of Star Citizen is, and I know everybody does their different level of research on these ships, right? Some people, they just see something, they like it. Some people may see the career that it's tied to, they like it. Some people spend the time to go through the Q&As, then they like it. You know what I mean? Some people don't buy it and they wait till later. And then after they get on somebody else's, then they buy it, right? Okay. Do you think that one of the casualties may be that even though, let's say that I like salvaging, and I take the vulture out and I do that and I enjoy the vulture, but I want to do more. I want to make more because the vulture is limiting how much income I can bring in. So I want a reclaimer, but I also don't know a lot of people to man my ship. Is that is that a hazard? Is that a negative that just comes along with it? In other words, I'm not in a big org. Or even if I'm in an org, maybe none of the people in my org want to go deep space mining. None of them want to. Whatever they do, they just want to play for a couple hours and get in and out. I want to go out in my ship and, I want to go 7 systems out and where the real good stuff is. But there's nobody in my group that wants to do it. Is that just going to be a reality of the game? Because it's very easy to say, for those of us who are social and have friends, to say, oh yeah, I'll just get some of my buddies and we'll go out. There's some people who actually tell you, I ain't got no buddies. I ain't got nobody that wants to go out and do mine. They all want to be combat. They don't want to do salvaging. Am I stuck now because I paid all that money for that reclaimer and I can't even use it, quote unquote? Is that a reality?
I get it. And it is. I mean, because I will, make a comparison to another game. I was in another MMO where, being in a guild and sometimes you want to run this raid,
right?
But not everybody wants to run that raid, because not everybody wants to get on their tune and be a tank and be a troller or be a healer, or because everybody wants to be like, I want a DPS or I want to do this and I want to do this,
right?
And I mean that's just a fact of that comes with it, a reality. That's there. Now, to try to, I guess you could say, to try to, I guess, come up with a solution to that particular problem. I mean, I get it. If you're an antisocial person, it's going to be tough in this game.
And this is the difficulty I've had for Wild Fist. And believe me, I'm not saying any shade toward people who have social anxieties and stuff, because that's a real thing.
And no, it is.
But it's how do we find that balance for? Again, I know CIG has been kind of careful about calling Star Citizen an MMO. They've been really careful about using that term. But it is, and maybe I'm wrong, guys. Chat, if I'm wrong, please let me know. I'm willing to acknowledge it. But it seems like the way the game is designed, it is a massive multiplayer online game.
Right.
If CIG doesn't call it that, it seems like it, right? In that definition, multiplayer, it is difficult to be a isolated person who says, I don't play well with people. But you come into a multiplayer world. Now, don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean that they can't do some things, because you can do solo stuff in the game, right? Mm-hmm. But am I limited now? Because, in other words, should I stay away from? I don't want to say this. This is going to sound cold when I say it, and I don't mean it in a cold way. But if I have social anxieties and problems, should I stay away from multiplayer ships, or am I penalized? Because that forces me to have to deal with people. And all I want to do is go in.
You have a valid point, because, not to take up too much, that is a valid point, and it's not to knock a person down or any person down who deal with that issue. Mm-hmm. It's just, there are certain things, like I knew a guy, like, who and here's the thing. I knew a guy who made a post, right, about the MSR. When the MSR had, when they implemented all of these lighting cues and stuff like that for, like, emergency lighting, when like if shit gets damaged, it'll start flashing and stuff. And he dealt with epilepsy.
Right.
And I get it. I'm not insensitive to his illness, but there is a point of fact that when you play video games, like every video game that I've ever played has that disclaimer that says, if you are
subject to something,
subject to these sensitive lights, then this game can trigger that particular situation.
Right.
Now, I get that person has, and I'm not knocking, to say, hey, listen, if you playing this game and you should know, because you have this illness, then you need to take your behind on overheat. I'm not trying to be like that, but I get it that there can be a little bit of accommodation, but I would have to say, don't expect it to be like, 100%.
Yeah. The developers can be aware of it and sensitive to it. Like, we've got some people, for example, who have color blindness, right? And even though there are other people some people may say, hey, can we change the colors in our cockpit on our HUD because we can't see it against, it's blue, and when I go to such and such planet, they're blue, and you can't read it. But then there are other people who are like, dude, whether it's blue, green, or red, I can't see it unless I change the spectrum to something else, right? CIG can be very accommodating to that, not just for gameplay's sake, but for players who may have some type of physical something that says that, I think they should be. I think they should be sensitive to it.
I think, and you're correct. Mm-hmm. But as far as, multiplayer comes, I mean, I think CIG has addressed it to an extent.
Okay.
As much as what they can do, because there's obviously, if they go to the extreme and say, okay, well, listen, you can go and get your shit bladed out or NPC'd out, for all of these tasks for these single solo players, then there could be a negative on that side too.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, like we've talked about these things sometimes. So there's a big balancing issue there when it comes to these things, because there's always, I guess you could say, a double-edged sword when it comes to that situation.
Okay. Good point.
And I know CIG is working hard to try to make things accommodating for solo play, because they are out there,
right?
And I hope they do to an extent, but not to the point of the fact that, that they understand that there are ramifications that could come where you might have that person who has a javelin and says, all right, well, guess what? I'm just going to outfit them all, like you said, and put all of these blades and, and go out here and just,
Yeah. I think like you said, I think SAG is aware and they will accommodate, but it should not come to the point where it compromises the game's dynamics, where the long-term impact of that decision can be bad. You know what I mean? You may satisfy some people in the beginning, but in the long term, you could maybe even shorten the longevity of interest in the game because you tried to accommodate certain things.
Right.
It's a difficult thing, right? Obviously, they want to try to put as many players, because even from the economic side of it, right, for making money, you want to try and get as many people in as possible. But you can also do that to a certain degree where you turn off people or the game just dies because the challenge and the work isn't there, right? And it could be right? Yep. Okay.
Right, cool. Yep, no problem.
All right, Fist. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate that as always, dude. Got some good words for our folks. Let's get you up here. Let's get Pops in. I skipped over my buddy Pops. Pops usually kicks us off. Pops, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Oh, you fourth this week, brother. My fault. My fault.
No. It's just good to see other people elbow me out of the front, and, make room for the young bloods. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. So you got any thoughts about this with the Reclaimer?
I think in part, I don't think this particular person may have really thought through maybe the game, maybe this what's going on. I think he needed to do his due diligence and understand the game. Mm-hmm. But I do get part of it, because maybe part of it is that he wants to go out on a Reclaimer or whatever big ship there is and make all the money and keep all of the money for himself. That's not right. That's not the way this game is played in that aspect of the Reclaim. If you want to keep all of it for yourself, you go for a Vulture.
Yeah, but Pops, but here's the deal, Pops. I hear you. Now, mind you, they didn't make this about money now, so I don't want to get too sidetracked about money. What they did try to do is associate it to the beds in the way they're designing the game. Now, this is what I do agree with you on. It sounds like they're assuming that because there's 5 beds, you can only have 5 people. That's what it sounds like. Because he keeps trying to work the numbers down, from all these seats to these many seats, to the point where he's finally got a crew of 4, and now he's got 5 beds or 5 roles. He mentions it with roles, Right. So maybe, now don't get me wrong, he might be looking at, hey, if I can take my Reclaimer out, I can make way more, and the less people I have on my ship, that's less I got to divide up. That could be a factor, but he's really emphasizing this issue of the way they're designing these ships. The ships are getting so big with all these positions, but there's only so many beds for people to log in and log out on, because obviously he's worried about being able to log in and log out in space versus being able to bring it into the station. So as far as I know, and again, I asked Chad about this earlier, can different people log out in the same bed? And it seems like the answer to that is yes. There's no restriction. So is this person's argument about, because then he talks about being able to make it so the pilot can handle the guns and all that other stuff. I mean, do you think that should that be optional, or should it stay the way it is? Maybe Chris is designing it that way deliberately, so that they're turret operators, right? Or should they make it so you can slave the guns on the Reclaimer? Now that's one less person, which also, to your point, means one less person I got to pay, right?
Right.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think the way he did his question was as he like you're saying, he did lead his question around the number of beds, and I think he was tying in the point to the bed to kind of bring in that light bulb moment. But first of all, we don't know how beds are going to fully work right now, so we do have to see. But there's another point. You may not need 5, even though you have 12 people for that shift, for that bed. It's a deep space ship. So are all all 12 of your people are not going to sleep at the same time. They're going to be just right. They're going to be on a. They should be on a rotation.
They could be on a rotation. It could be right.
Right.
Yeah.
They should be on a rotation.
Yeah.
Because it's a deep spaceship. But
I'll say, and bed logging is also about like how we, when we play Icarus, right? Some of us are the mission's going on, but somebody's got to leave, right?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that we all quit at the same time. Somebody says, "Hey, dude, I got to run. I got to do something with my family." We go to the bed, we log out. That's the purpose of it. So that just like in Icarus, when we come back in where we logged out at, right? That's kind of the general idea of that. So you said bed logging is more than just that. Calrati even inferred that maybe bed logging will mean something later, just like how going to the bathroom will mean something. Maybe, like right now when you go to the hospital, if you just go lay down in the hospital bed, you get revived in your health a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The bed may have some other functions, like you said, that we don't even know about yet, beyond just the logging out prospect, right?
Okay. Right.
Okay.
And I do get this point because I don't want to be laying in the bed, relaxing, reading my book in the bed, and then all of a sudden is another dude appears in my bed with me. I don't want that to happen. But,
let's hope that you log into the bed above you or next to you or something, not just right on top of you, right?
Yeah, but that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day.
Okay, Pops. Thank you, man. Right. I like that. That's good stuff. All right, we're going to bring in Admiral Kusanagi, then we're going to jump on to our next topic. Admiral, you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Hey,
can you hear me?
There he is. How are you?
I know everyone. I'm doing well. Thank you. I know you had a lot of talk on here, and I just want to. I've been writing stuff down this whole time. So, I guess first off, I want to talk about the blades real quick.
Okay.
There's I think they kind of have this like golden gun from James Bond effect, where people think they can just one man, a ship, whether it be the Reclaimer or whether it be the future Orion, which has a similar component mixture. It's 4 to 5 and 4 to 7 crew on the Orion. So it just like, in the way I look at it is that for blades, it's like you're gonna lose something. Like you could possibly use a blade to look for better rock or to extend your radar signature. We're not just talking about turrets here. There are all these things. Maybe you want to keep your EM signature smaller because you're a big ship in the middle of nowhere, so you just want to kind of hide a little bit better. So I think there's different ways that people are forgetting about that they could just like kind of go at. And you mentioned Eve, so it's kind of interesting. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like in Eve, you could like find a rock and then go downstairs and make a sandwich, and then come back up, and then and then you could just do other stuff. So, but that isn't Star Citizen. Star Citizen's like, you need to have
controls. Yeah, you got to be doing stuff.
The Lancet right now, the Lancet is mining lasers used for Quantanium. But if you read the description of it, it classifies the Lancet as a support laser best utilized when mining with others, generating a weaker than average beam. The Lancet safely heats deposits to reduce the resistance and instability, but struggles to shatter them on its own. For mining crews, it's an ideal support laser to use alongside other lasers.
Right.
So right now we're able to use these to break Quantanium, but in the future that might not be the case. You might need to have two prospectors to do a Quantanium rock, especially people use the L2 versions with the mole, and so this isn't like something that's just like they can't like start. SIG just came out of nowhere and said, hey, you need a multi-crew ship or whatnot. They want people to be able to play the game but play it as a team and as a group, and as like you said, an RPG MMO or an MMO anyways. But we definitely have issues with the there are single person ships, there's small multi-crew and there's large multi-crew, and I just don't see how anyone can man a multi-crew ship with just like two people. I question the beds component, because on the website it says it's 4 and is the minimum plus, and then but 5 is like the max. So
there's 4 in the crew area, and then the captain's got 1 in his area.
Okay, so he's got 4 plus 1. So and I think everybody else touched base that if you're in a fight, you're not going to be ripping a ship apart. You're going to be on the turret. So so really, it's as long as those stations are being utilized by each of those 4. We'll say 4. The captain's probably just he could be walking around for all you know, and then you'd be fine. The question regarding the beds, though, like, can I land an Idris next to your like luxury location and then just spawn out 1,000 people out of those beds because they've all like been assigned to that. So like, I really don't think that's going to be the case. And while hot bunking has been a thing, you know, on real Navy ships or other vessels, I mean, I just don't know how maybe there should be a max to that.
Yeah.
You know, you might have Joe using the bed, but he hasn't showed up in a month. So maybe you can reset the bed so someone else can use it. And then Joe would have to just like slow boat it to where your location is again in the future.
Yeah.
So I kind of, that's kind of like my look at this multi-crew, giant multi-crew ship issue.
That, you know what, there's some interesting game things that they could put in. I'm glad you mentioned that because for example, let's talk about the Idris you talked about, right? And we know that they may say something like 8 people can run it, 24 people have to be on board, right? Maximum, right? Maybe there will be something that does allow per bed only so many people can log in it. It can only get 5 logs out of it, or 4 logs, or 3 logs into it. And once it maxes out, once 3 people have logged out of that bed, you got to go to a different one. You have to use a different one. That will prevent what you mentioned, 100 people all going onto somebody's Idris, logging into it, right? Then logging out. Someone flies the ship where they want, then they all start logging in at different times, and you've got 100 people sitting at that location. They could come up with some things to restrict with the maximum capacity. Now, remember, CIG has given us several things, guys. And Admiral, I'm glad you said this because you mentioned how things are right now. You mentioned about that Lancet. Right now, we can do that with the Lancet, but later, the Lancet may have a different type of effectiveness or support. I know when we forgot the Mole, a lot of people used to take out a Helix with 2 Lancets, or a Lancet, a Helix, and I forget that other one is even weaker. And that way they were coordinating how they would break up rocks. I think that if I'm remembering correctly, all ships, and mind you guys, CIG has said this, but when it's going to happen, we don't know. When they start adding in the actual, what's it called? Not ventilation, but the, what's the word I'm looking for, Admiral? You know, they're going to make atmospheric. Yeah, the life support.
Oh, life support. Yeah.
They said life support will be based upon what the ship's capacity can accommodate. In other words, if they say that a ship has maximum capacity of 24, the ship will be designed, life support will be designed for 24 people. If you put 28 people on there, you will be straining the life support system. And eventually, you will have, I guess, carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, whatever it is we get. You'll start passing out. Now, that's down the road. It's not happening right now. We know that atmosphere is not a factor on the ships, but they've told us that that will be a factor. So even if you do want to put, you know, you've got your 890 jump, maybe 50 people is the most you could have on that ship, because if you put 75 on there, people are going to start falling out. That could be a factor. So beds and stuff being a factor. Now, mind you, on a ship like the 890, I forget how many beds are on there. Is maybe about there's 6 guest rooms, and you got the crew rooms. That's another 8. And then you've got the 4 guest rooms. The ultimate spot says 16, 20. There may be somewhere between 16 and 20 beds, I think, on the 890. You know, but mind you, it can hold more people than that. But that's dealing with roles. Now, on this reclaimer thing, Admiral, we both know that this is not designed, even though there may be 12 different positions, we know that it's designed for maybe 6 to 7 people to be able to effectively run the ship.
And people have said that, like, in chat and before, and like in this, as you scroll up here, it's just that they're going to be, you do multiple roles. Everyone has a different position. When I was in the service, I was a cannon crew member, but I was also the single soldier representative. I was the gunnery sergeant driver. I was
multiple roles.
You just have multiple stuff you do, and you hey, I have to do this right now, I have to do that right now. So you could be on the radar searching for these shipwrecks or whatever in the co-pilot seat, but then hey, now that you found it, you have to go take a man a laser. So and that's the same thing. Maybe the person who's chewing it up in the back, now that they've gone through all this stuff, they just need to make sure they move the boxes that they showed us to the cargo bay location now. So I think it's just they're trying to make this a cool experience that everybody can like rotate their positions and not get bored with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And have a good time with it, but also stay out there for a long time.
Does it also bring value to you as a player? In other words, the more skills you build up or experiences you build up, you know what I mean? So that, yeah, not only are you a good scanner operator, but you've also had experience in operating the drones. You know what I mean? That lends something to your credibility in the game for me to want to hire you. You know what I mean? Because, you know, Kusanagi's a level 5. You know this. I mean, this guy has done this before. You know, he's worked on a reclaimer before. You know what I mean? That to me gives me even greater reason to hire you versus the Blade, right? Or the NPC, because you've not only got experience. I mean, I'm not saying everybody can fire a turret. There are some people who are way better turret handlers. Some people may be better drone flyers. Certain people may be better working in the medical field on your ship in the med bay. But I think that it inspires us as players to want to learn some other skills to make ourselves more valuable to other players in the game. You know,
it certainly increases your resume.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying you say you want to go join a claimer organization or something like that, or you're just trying to get on one. You're like, oh, I have experience in this, this, and this. Well, you know, I have experience in mining, and I have experience in like working on a medical ship, and I'm like, well, I'm looking for this. Like you could have, and that's you just being like a lot of people. Star Citizen is very difficult because people want to do like everything in the game, and they make it very difficult because there's so much to do. They're trying to make every career just like really cool. But I really think like, and while you can do that, the best people that they're going to be doing these jobs are going to be like the ones who are specifically doing this, and they know exactly what this mining head does, or vice versa for other career fields. Like and like, you know, how do I fix this guy's heart because he got shot in the chest or something like that. Like I mean, certainly it's not like, you know, we're not leveling up here, you know, like, oh, I could put points to a certain thing. It's like you got to do it like for over and over and over again. You know, like who's the best sniper in my unit and stuff like that. And you know, are they using, you know, camouflage techniques or whatever, however we're going to work it. I just think that the reclaimer is a very cool thing, and I don't want to, you know, because maybe like the grabbing arm that we haven't talked about. Maybe the grabbing arm, there are certain areas of the ship that you really don't want to stay in touch because they're too gentle, and you'll just break it apart and you can't do anything afterwards. So there was all this stuff that they really haven't told us about that could happen that we just don't know. And I think this person freaking out, as other people have freaked out recently in the community over small little things, they just see what happens. But again, this really should be it's a large multi-crew ship, and it should be out there for a long time. So yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, Admiral. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, guys. I spent way too much time on this subject. We were having such a good conversation. I didn't even realize the time had flown by. I should be on question number 3, and we're only on question number 1. So let's go ahead and jump to the next one, okay? This one is called Siege of Orison, and it's by Rumiii. I guess that's Rumiii, something along those lines. I don't know. Let me read this one to you because this has got some links to it too. This is in Star Citizen General. Admiral, if you can drop it in for me, I would appreciate it. It says, let me start with this. I'm a new player, playing for 2 months now, and I love the game. I think it's the most ambitious and biggest game of all time, and I support everything coming and everything there already is, except one thing. Siege of Orison. Mainly the siege being on Orison. Why does it have to be on Orison, the laggiest place in the entire Stanton system? I'm not trolling when I say I bought a new PC just for this game, and that place is the only place I have low FPS, to the point where it takes away from the experience. Everything feels sluggish, and you already need like 15 minutes to get there. Then you wait for the shuttles. Everything is just frustrating and time consuming. The consuming part I have no issue with, but when it consumes without giving back, then it feels like a time waste. I've done it twice and attempted it a few times. It's just not worth it. Don't even get me started with going there or getting out. The whole planet should be nuked. Okay. P.S. Grimhex elevator is still not working. Okay. Oh my God. Everybody ran in the room for this one. Oh my God. Okay. I might skip question number 3 today because I can tell people want to talk about this. I don't know who was first. One of you guys, whoever was first, put it in the box for me so I'll know. Somebody put it in chat because I was reading. And I don't know who was first. Who was first? Was it Red Baron? Was it Pops, Calradi, or Fist? It was Kai. Oh, Calradi? Okay, Calradi. All right. So I'm going to bring Calradi in. Calradi, you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, okay, you get to be first on this one.
All
Okay.
right.
Siege of Orison. Any thoughts about why are we on Orison? Why would they do that to us?
Oh yeah, that is some complete suffering. That's some sacrifice that we gotta go through, spend the time to get there. But ironically, I think the reason why they did that is, in addition to lore and such and evolving lore, I can't remember how many remember. Well, I'm not sure how many remember that little quadrant that I think Tony Z had spoken about. I think at Siege, not at CitizenCon or one of his videos, which dictated, okay, the metrics that they would pull to get an idea of how many players will spend the time to do a mission, how many players will spend the time to go through the mission and complete it, how many will go through it and not complete it, et cetera, so that they'll have an idea of how to tailor that experience to their attempts and times consumed and times invested. So I think part of the additional reason why they have it on Orison was to get an idea of, okay, how many are really willing to go through all of this time, all this investment to actually do this mission on Orison, right? Versus and how proportionate that time invested will be to the kind of reward that they will be getting in the very end, right? Of course, Siege of Orison, we're seeing continuous improvements from it. So I'm going to assume that, based on those kinds of metrics, it's been very useful for them to get an idea of, okay, is it worth, persons actually investing the time to go down all the way to Orison to do this mission? Okay, we're seeing not many people are wanting to repeat this mission. It could be because of the distance. Let's make some changes and see how things, adjust with regards to the player metrics. So that's part of the reason why I think off the back of my hand that they're having this in addition to the game lore and the ever evolving game lore. So that's what I think.
All right. Very cool. All right, Calradi. Thank you very much.
Hey,
I'm going to move on to the next person here. I'll bring in Pops this time. I'll bring in Pops. I don't know who is next, but I'm going to bring in Pops. Pops, you there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Yeah, got any thoughts on this with the Siege of Orison?
Yeah, let's drop a nuke on it. Okay, that's one way of solving all issues.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, there's going to be many of these going on throughout the verse. They're going to be triggered by different things that we do. I would imagine that.
Let me ask you a
right
question.
now,
when you've gone to Orison, have you run into the problems he's talking about? Has it been so laggy, so bad? Do you feel like when you fly down, it takes too long? What are your feelings about just that whole experience when you decide to do it?
At certain points it has, at some points it hasn't. And I think that's the part of what they're doing in the background with the servers.
Okay.
Yeah, I think yeah, we all want to get in there. My whole point is we all want to get in there. We want to go through the mission, have everything nice and smooth right now, but that's not where the state of the game is right now. They need to put in certain things in the back that we can't see because they want to see the impact of what's going on. And yeah, we do get upset. And it's a whole new location also. So there's assets that they have to test, the lighting assets, all of those things that interfere. And yeah, I understand, but then we have to understand what we're doing. So,
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for the subscription.
Yes, and Leia and Maiden Ariana, thank you both for the subs. And Pops, thank you for the wisdom, as always.
Yeah,
appreciate you. All right. Listen, the other thing I want to think about too is, well, what, before I say my 2 cents, let me bring in Red Baron, and then I'll bring in Fist. Red, you there?
Yeah.
Red Bear one, yeah. What are your thoughts about Siege of Orison? First of all, do you have any of these problems? Have you experienced some of these problems when it comes to the Siege?
It's me and a friend says there's no issue whatsoever at all.
Okay.
No, and of course we had some problems. We had like teleporting and NPCs that don't react. Everybody had this, but we always think like this a part of the testing of Orison. I mean, you can best test where the performance is the worst, actually.
Yeah. Sean Johnson says something here, Red. He says that the game is still in alpha. This is why we play, not to expect the complete game, but to help in the process of discovering and resolving problems with game loops. Do you think that CIG was deliberate? Because we, for those of us who went to Orison, when Orison first opened up, I remember the first time I went.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad for me. It was kind of, because I had way worse frame rates than when I went to Orison when it first opened up. But for some people, it was so bad. It was you know what I mean? It was like they were getting 4 frames, 5. It was super bad. For me, I was getting like 12 to 16 frames. It wasn't so bad. Do you think that maybe to a certain degree, this is almost like a stress test type of thing? They're putting all this activity into one of the worst spaces to see, to see how they can make performance better. You think that's a possibility?
Yeah, there's also the problem that a lot of people have different systems,
different rigs,
different configurations, and other stuff. And kind of funny that you said it with the few frames we had back in, let's say, 3.0. We were happy with 15 frames. 15, guys. Nuts. It was like nothing. And now if we get below 30, we get rage on the forums and go there. And how is this possible? Unplayable.
Well,
it is. It's
an
optimized
game. On a game that's not even optimized, and yet we go crazy at 30 frames.
And we get now a lot more, and we get a lot more frames as well. But I can see why he is a bit puzzled. Why they chose?
He's a new player.
That's why I say I can see that, of course. But yeah, we are all unfortunate testers, and we like this to do this. I met a lot of guys there in the way in the siege of Orison. It was kind of funny. I broke both my legs, and they lifted me up with the the beamer. Yeah, that was kind of funny how we came out of there. So yeah, that's how you meet people as well. It has its advantages as well, and I think what they did also very well. It is a bit different, but still Orison. They're gonna put this racing track on Orison as well. I think it's actually very smart because people were complaining about there's nothing to do on those planets. Now they're gonna put more stuff to do on the planets. So I hope to see a lot more of this on the planets that people have to do and can do and feel a bit useful.
Good point.
And I think the racing is a very good move in my opinion.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, Brett. Thank you again, brother. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. I knew there was something else that somebody put in the chat that I missed. It was Shady. Shady Face says, if you don't like travel times in this game, you may want to rethink if this game is for you, because it's only going to get worse with systems like Pyro. Yeah, we've seen that CIG has shaved down times for traveling in Seria. Sometimes it's leaving atmosphere, sometimes it's during quantum. At first it starts out as I think I've told you guys this before, when we first got Hurston, it took 15 minutes to get from Port O to Hurston. Obviously, it's not that anymore. They've tweaked it, and they will continue to tweak it as the game goes on. But time travel is a factor. If you are trying to leave Orison to get into orbit, and you want to fly anything like your, I don't know, Connie, anything like that, guess what? It's going to take time. If you get into your, I hate to say this, y'all, get into your starter ship, you'll get up there real quick. A lot of y'all don't want to fly your starter ship. Take your starter ship to Orison, up to Port O. Port O, get in the ship that you want to fly, take off that way. But, a lot of times y'all want to fly that ship that you paid for, that really nice one, but then it takes a while to get out of atmosphere. I'm telling you, you got to think about how you're going to do that. But yeah, Shady, I do appreciate what you said there. Time factor. We do have to think about travel times. This is going to be real in the game. And sometimes you just can't get from here to there as quickly as you may want to. Let's bring in Fist. This will be the last one on this particular question. Fist, you there? Alrighty. Yeah, what do you think about this piece of sea? First of all, with you, let me ask you this. When you were in Siege of Orison, was it difficult? Was it difficult to play, or somewhat laggy, not that laggy, ran good for you?
Now, when I played it on the PTU.
Okay.
So when it first, I believe when it first came out. So I don't think it was running.
Okay.
So I can't say. I mean, it wasn't laggy though.
Okay.
For me, I haven't had those experiences as other people were having. Because I haven't recently played it.
Okay.
And everything, but I will say, I mean, as far as what the person did mention, though, them buying or building a brand new system to play the game and it not being able to run and optimize and stuff like that. I just did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
and I put it's not the best video card in there, but I saw some improvements in certain areas.
Right.
Orison is just, going to be one of those areas that we all know right now has a lot of entities in there.
Mm.
Especially with volumetric clouds, you can forget about it. Like you can literally get 15 frames more if you turn volumetric clouds off right now. So, and I still am sitting at 30, like at the max, I can get like 30 frames per second inside of the halves without the volumetric clouds. So I don't know what this person's system is, and what they're expecting right now. I'm quite sure that he or she is not. There's a lot of people in that same boat.
Yeah, there are some games, Star Citizen, other games, right? And you know what I'm talking about when I say this. You ever sit next to your computer and realize you're starting to cook because the demands on your computer? Other things you do, you're no problem, right? All of a sudden you're almost sweating because it's really straining out your system, even if it's a really good system, right?
Right.
And Star Citizen's one of those games, right? It pulls on performance. Heavy, it does mess with the CPU a lot. GPU definitely as well. But I'll tell you, I'm one of those rare people. When I go to Orison, I rarely have problems with Orison with frame rates. Rarely have I ever had problems with it. Now, that could be contingent upon I play a lot at night. That could be a factor. There aren't a lot of people on the servers when I'm playing, right? But I have gone to servers when the servers are at 70 or 60 or 50, and I've gone in, and other people are telling me that they're seeing like what do you call it, desync and stuff. I don't see the desync. People are moving. They say their person is hopping from spot to spot. For me, they're moving smoothly. Now, as someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Red Deer said this earlier. Everybody's clients, their rigs are different. Different configurations bring up different things, and so, and as we
ISP.
know, yeah, right. And the game's not anywhere near optimization yet. So I understand this person's frustration because they want to play Orison. They want to play it in a way that, like they said, they don't mind the amount of time it takes as long as there's a payoff at the end. And this is like when we had 30Ks, right? You're doing something, 30K happens after you spend an hour getting there, 30K comes in, then you feel like you wasted your time, right?
Right.
So I do understand that, but I think that this person may not understand, being new, that this is all about testing. It's all about what we do to make the game better. Not that the game is at its best, but that we're trying to do this so that the people behind the curtain get that data, get that information, and now they're able to go in and say, we noticed that when these people play Siege of Orison, that frame rates and performance drops by 30%. They're on that. They're not leaving it that way. They are trying to get it up so that that doesn't happen anymore. And so that's why you should play it. I know it gets frustrating, and sometimes they say, I'm not going to play it till they get it fixed. But if we're not doing it, they don't get the data they need, right? If they don't get the tickets, if they don't get all that stuff. So that goes along with our responsibility. Again, if I can understand frustration, sometimes say, hey, I got to step back from it. That's cool. But there are also a lot of people who will go in there and still play the game, even when it's buggy and funky.
Hats off to them.
Yeah.
I agree. I will say I'm one of those people on the other side of where if I'm frustrated, I say, all right, you know what? It's time for me to go play something else.
Yeah, right. That's the thing to do, right? That's why there's a lot of us. That's why there's a lot of us,
I am that person. So I apologize if I'm lacking in that department of my contributions to CIG's data
I'd
on
rather
that
you
end.
stay sane. So stay sane.
Exactly.
Okay? I'd rather
So-
you stay sane. Don't worry. Somebody will step in and cover for you. Okay.
Put my hats off to those that are hardcore in that area. I give you the nice righteous fist pump to you.
Cool.
You know.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Fist. Okay, that's it on the Siege of Orison. Let's try. I'm gonna try to hit these other two subjects real quick. This one may be out of the lane for some of you guys, but I am gonna ask it because I know there's some of you all who do still play this game. And this was on Reddit. How much content does Star Citizen in its current state have compared to Elite Dangerous? And they were very specific. They're not talking about Squadron 42. They're being very specific on this question and asking about Star Citizen in its current state in comparison to Elite. Now, one of the reasons why this person is asking this question too is because there are a lot of people who were playing Elite Dangerous for quite a while who have now moved over to playing Star Citizen. So what we're going to do, I'm going to drop this link in for you guys, and you can follow along with me and see where this person's coming from. They said, I know the Star Citizen has been in a state of alpha for many years, but I've been seeing lots of complex and comprehensive missions and gameplay mechanics on YouTube. I'm curious how much playable content it has amassed in those many years in development compared to Elite Dangerous in its latest iteration of Odyssey. Regardless of its roadmap, does Star Citizen currently come close or even surpass the amount of content that Elite Dangerous Odyssey offers? I'm referring to Star Citizen only, and I'm not including Squadron 42. So I don't have anybody in the stream right now. That means that I may not have a lot of Elite players in here or anybody who has experienced Odyssey. By the way, if you are watching this show and you want to come in and talk to me, we've had several people who've come in today and we're always thankful for them, but this is an open Discord for you guys to come in and talk with me if you have any thoughts about this particular question or anything that we bring up on the show. I'm going to bring in Red Baron because Red Baron has stepped in, and maybe he can share some insight, and then I'll share some insight on this, and then we'll go ahead and get into our final question of the day. So let me bring Red Bear back in. Red, you there?
Hello?
Hey. What are your thoughts about this? Does Star Citizen in its current state have content in comparison to Elite Dangerous?
Well, let me say this first.
Mhm.
I have backed Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous when they kickstarted.
Okay.
And eventually, I played a little bit of Elite Dangerous until Star Citizen was more the developed.
Mhm.
I played the hangar module, the arena commander, and all the things. And I just noticed that I was playing less and less Elite Dangerous eventually, till I totally stopped. So in my opinion, it has for sure it has a lot more content than Elite Dangerous, but it kind of also depends what kind of player you are. If you enjoy more an finished product like Elite Dangerous, then I think you might even enjoy that more because you don't have as much bugs to deal with. Yeah, well, let's be real. We can talk all we want. It has more content. Yes. It's true. We have more content now, but I think if you want to have a more flawless experience, less buggy, then I think you stay with Elite Dangerous and do there your thing. Else you might get disappointed. And I think, and I try as much as possible to get people into Star Citizen. They are really know that this is a buggy mess. Or can be a buggy mess. Sometimes it's really flawless, or at least it feels flawless. And then it just plummets into a buggy mess again. It has its ups and downs. And if you want to have a stable experience, even if it's somewhat, for some people like me, boring, then you stick with Elite. That's why I think.
I'm like you. I started backing both of them, and
Mhm.
I was playing in the beginning. I was playing Elite like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then as Star Citizen evolved, I found myself playing Elite less and less. And I
Yeah.
think by the time they got around to Engineers, I had stopped playing Elite completely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I had anything against it. There was just something that was drawing me more. In fact, most of my friends played both, but there was
Yeah.
something that was leaning me more toward Star Citizen. And I'm not completely sure what that was, because you, as you mentioned, Star Citizen, what Elite didn't bring along with it was the bugs and frustration
Yeah.
that Star
Absolutely.
Citizen did.
Yeah.
But I
And still, we went back.
yeah, right. But I still found myself playing it even in the midst of that. So
Yeah.
that'll bring something worth talking about maybe later and thinking about even
Yeah.
with the bugs, even with the frame rates, even with the waiting on patches. Why did we still keep coming back to Star Citizen and find
I
ourselves
think
playing Elite less and less?
I think one of the reasons might be that every patch they brought something new in it, and
Mm,
for Elite, it
Mhm.
was like you needed to buy an expansion again
yeah,
before you get something new.
yeah,
You had until Odyssey, you had a very flawless
yeah,
experience with Odyssey. I hear I didn't play it anymore with Odyssey. I'll be very honest here.
yeah. Yeah, I
I
did.
hear there
I
was a
did buy
lot of
Odyssey.
bugs. Yeah.
I bought Odyssey,
Mhm.
and I played it for about a week. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
wanted to. I was really hoping that it would draw me in,
Yeah.
but it was tough, and it wasn't ready when
Yeah.
it came out. That was another. And
Yeah.
it's funny to say, right? Like Star Citizen's ready, right? But it wasn't the experience that I thought would be there. And I know they're
Yeah.
trying. I know that they're trying to make some other things happen now with story and lore, but many people who play Elite have talked about
Mhm.
how it might be too little too late at this point. You have a
True.
beautiful big universe there, lots of places to go,
Yeah.
but after a while you realize, when you make a game, a space game, like literally how space is,
Yes.
for some
Yeah.
people space can become boring very quickly.
Yes. I see one comment which
Mhm.
is actually attracting me is it's the immersion unlike any other, and I have to agree on that one.
Yeah, Sean. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Steve Johnson. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
good point. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Red. Thank you,
Okay.
man. All righty. All right. Boom. We got through that one. That's some good stuff, guys. Thank you guys for sharing. I know that a lot of you all who may not be Elite players, especially having played Elite Dangerous or playing Odyssey. So if you didn't play it, I get it. But there is still some questions about that. And obviously, this person is curious about Star Citizen, but there's a lot of stories about what Star Citizen can and cannot do, and they probably are asking this from a very genuine space: hey, is there stuff to do now in the game? For the longest time there wasn't. Is there stuff to do? So, yeah, I think most of us find things to do in Star Citizen. So, okay, let's hit this last point here, and this is where we opened up our show with the title for the show this week: CitizenCon 2952. Where is Chris Roberts? For those of you who've been around any length of time, you know that when CitizenCons came out, from the very beginning, Chris would always make, he'd open it up. They'd do a presentation. Well, Sandy would open it up, and then Chris would come out and talk to us. And as CitizenCons evolved, whether it was Gamescom, CitizensCon, whatever it was, CDC, Chris would come out and he would do his presentation. And as CitizensCon continued to grow, the presentations grew. To a point where we had one presentation at the end, till later we have an opening presentation where they would kind of set up what CitizenCon would be about in that opening presentation. Then we'd break off into the sessions. And then afterward, Chris would come back and do the second part of his keynote. And then we'd see like the culmination of where they wanted us to go. And CitizenCons were at that time really about showing us the vision of what Chris wanted to do. Now, sometimes we would also assume or feel, or maybe CIG led us to believe, that whatever they were showing us that year, we'd probably be getting it that next year. Sometimes, a lot of times, many of the elements of what we saw, we did start seeing. We did start getting elements of those things, maybe not everything. Note the infamous sandworm, right, of Lear. And people kept asking, when are we going to get the sandworm? When are we get the sandworm? And that was interesting because people didn't, when that video opens up, it says at the bottom left, Lear 3. It says that, Lear 3. And people kept asking, where's the sandworm? And they didn't understand that the sandworm was indigenous to the Lear system. We don't have the Lear system. Were we cheated? No. What Chris was showing us was what they would like to be able to give us, the vision of where we want to go. Now, I'm giving some background history, y'all. That's if you're wondering why I'm going through this big tirade. Over time, people started to get complaining and upset and saying, you know what, they're showing us all this stuff and they never deliver it, or it doesn't happen, or if it does happen, it's not going to happen until years from now. And so CIG began to shift as things became, as the tools got developed and as the internals got developed and things on the back end side got developed. They started to shift from here's the vision to here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we want to be able to put in your hands soon. And as we moved into that, we started losing the longer vision type stuff and started dealing with the reality. And they started tweaking that with the roadmap and started tweaking that with the progress tracker of where we are. There's been good and bad to both of those sides, But now people are saying, where's Chris Roberts? You know, we used to see him at CitizenCon all the time. And then I remember when he was at CitizenCon, there were people who would say, well, I wish they would just not let Chris talk and let's just get to the stuff, right? You know, he goes on too long, or he's using his hands too much, or whatever the case may be. And now that Chris is gone and they're showing us directly from the devs, there are people asking, well, where's Chris? You know, so it's almost like, once again, can they win either way? So my question today to you guys is it important for you to hear from Chris Roberts? Is it important for you just to hear about the progress directly from the people who are doing it, the devs? Tony Z's not up this year, right? As far as we know, Tony Z's not up. Does Tony Z need to be up? Tony Z's talked to us in the last 2 big CitizenCons. He's talked to us before. He's talked to us during ISCs. Does it bring some type of credibility when we see them? Or does it create problems when we see them and we have these expectations that maybe aren't real? What are your thoughts? I'm going to have you guys come in. Don't forget, you guys can come in and chime in on this. I've got a couple people already standing by. Does Chris Roberts need to show up at CitizenCon? That's the question. I'm going to bring in Pops this time because Red was here last. So let me bring him in. Pops?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about this? You know, you've seen CitizenCon 20 is only a few weeks away.
Mm-hmm.
We used to see Chris Roberts right at the beginning, Chris Roberts keynote at the end. We don't have that. We didn't have it last time. What about this? What are your thoughts?
I don't think we need to. It's nice, but there's so many people that, you know, do so much in this game. It's actually good for me. It's actually good to see more than one. Because if I seen one person all the time presenting, you know, everything is, you know, and one thing that, you know, Jared, we were talking Disco, and he said, how many games do you know where you get to meet, you know, the team, the developers, where you get to, where he, you know, that's actually one of his shows where he, you know, when he always starts his show saying, we always have somebody new. Mm-hmm. So where else do you get that in game? We get to meet, you know, with Jalen and the rest of the people. Yeah. They get to have their time. And that's probably a big morality booster for, you know, for them. I'd love to hear from Chris Roberts. I have no problem. But I still, on the other hand, you know, love to see many, many faces and find out what they're doing, because the game is educational to me on their jobs. I can sit behind my computer and play the game, but to actually know and dive in and learn, you know, little corners and things like that. And they give you clips of meetings and, you know, all this stuff. I think that is so interesting. And it's, you know, one of the things I love looking up is like Unreal Engine when the people come in and they explain, because you just don't know exactly how it works. And I think it's good for the community to see, instead of just, oh, why isn't this ship in the game? Because that ship takes months to build. You think they just, right. 5 days they built a ship and that's done. And it's not the way it works. So I think educational is a good point.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, Pops.
All right.
Thank you much, brother. All right, let's bring Red in. Red, you there? Do we have Red?
I'm here.
Red, where's Chris Roberts?
Yeah, he is at my home.
Okay.
We are discussing CitizenCon here.
Talking about
and I'm convincing him to go on stage for the first few minutes.
Okay.
I almost have him this far, guys. No, I just hope he will just be at the front and at the end of the CitizenCon, like we normally do. Maybe at the front a couple of words, and then he leaves it to his, like Bob says, to his developers to show the game off. I mean, that's what he has to do, in my opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. And then even a week later, you will see a lot of people going into it, do deep dives, complaining about how shallow it all is now. And then I only hope that in this CitizenCon, I think it's going to be a digital one as well. They have like a chat going open, so we have live interaction. Not that we have like last time. They do this answer question like not live.
Right.
Because I missed that last time. The setup of CitizenCon was the same, but everybody had like a feeling there was something missing. And the something what we missed was the live interaction between the developer and the backers.
Yes.
So I hope we will get that back again. Then we will be in good shape, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I have mixed feelings on both of them because you and I have been around a long time, and I was around back in the day when Chris did most of the talking, right? I remember when CitizenCon was freaking 3 hours total. You know what I mean? It wasn't that long. You didn't have all this extra stuff that we have now. What I miss, and I know some people did not like it, I miss Chris talking because Chris was talking about his vision. What he wanted to achieve. Now, we've seen that vision change, over the years, right? I mean, modify, not become drastically different, but based upon technology, what they've been able to deliver, right, from that vision. So
the biggest, I think, change in his vision was that we would have like cutscenes from going to space to planet, to have like a seamless experience.
Exactly. And I remember when they revealed that to us, when they showed it to us, when we thought that wasn't going to happen for years and years to come, right?
Yeah.
So what I miss is I don't want to say leader, because that's not the word I want to say. I miss the person who has originated this vision, expanding it to us and opening it up to us more so that we have an understanding of where he wants to go. That's the part I miss. Now, I don't need to hear all that either. I also want to hear at the same time what they're doing now that says, this is what we've got, this is what we're working on, and this is what we would like to get into your hands over the next year. That's just as important to me. But I love when we saw Lear 3, that said, here are the possibilities. Look at all the things we saw at Lear 3. We saw the Aquila. We saw as you mentioned, going from the surface to landing down on the planet. We saw the rover. We saw the bike. We saw a sandstorm. We saw dynamic weather. We saw the sandworm. We saw the sand people. None of that stuff most of that wasn't even in the game. But it showed us where he wanted to go. And so that's the part I miss. I want him to get up now and say, this is what science was going to look like in the future. This is what exploration in my mind will look like in the future. This is what black market will look like. The developer stuff is great, but we know there's all this other stuff, and I want to hear him give us now where he wants to see it. So I agree with you. What you said, a great welcome from him would be great.
Yeah.
And at the very end, if he did like a 15-minute, this is where my vision is taking us, I would love to see that too. So
yeah, and then it will be fine for me from Chris, and for me that's enough.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do a lot more.
Thing anymore, right? But I do want to hear from him. He started transitioning a little bit. Remember when he would bring up Sean Tracy, or he would bring up I can't think of the other guy, Todd Pappy, and they would do stuff together. That was kind of cool when they were doing that, because these are the guys who are in the in the trenches, talking through what their teams have been working on. I like that part of it, But I do like hearing from Chris, even though I know some people he wears them out, but that's what he shares. He shares the vision. And then if I want to know where this game is going, that's what I'd like to hear. Okay. Greg, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
All righty. Okay. Well, we have had a great time this afternoon with some great people, as always, who came in and shared. I appreciate everybody who came in today. I just realized that I did not do my last slide, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. That was our show from from last week. I'm going to bring up the slide for this week's show if I can find it. Hopefully I can find it pretty quick here. As you guys know, as I mentioned, this is our Thursday show. I'm sorry, our Saturday show where we talk about Spectrum and Reddit. But during the week, we also have another show that we do on Thursdays. And that show is, I don't have the slide up here for it, but it is Soul Talk. And that's with our good friend Fast Cart. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time, where we get to come in and have a roundtable discussion about what's going on in Star Citizen, whether it's on ISC, SCL, the newsletters, monthly report, all that cool stuff, the real world tangible stuff of Star Citizen we talk about on Thursday evenings. And then on Sunday, tomorrow, we are going to be doing our careers show, career series, I should say, on mining and refining. Now, it was several months ago, actually last year, I think we did a show on mining. But as you guys know, mining has expanded over the last year. We've got refineries now. Now we're going to be having a refining ship called the Expanse. And then there's also ships that are coming in like the Hull series ships. So we're going to be talking about how we see mining and refining as a whole operation, not just going out into the Prospector and the Mole and the Orion. But now, if you want to run a mining operation, we're going to be talking about, man, what are all the different things that are needed to make that thing happen so you can be profitable in Star Citizen and have a lot of fun with your friends. So that's going to be our other subject that we're going to be talking about. Excuse me. Boy, I need something to drink. Last but not least, we're going to talk about PodSat Saturday. As you guys know, on Saturdays, this is when we do our PodSat show, where we go to, following this show, Paul Shelley with the Captain's Table, which begins at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You guys can go hang out with Paul. And then after that, we have Relay, who comes on at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and hang out with the guys with Eris and Nakara, and who else is over there? Shiver. Hang out with those guys. Sometimes, believe it or not, I think, is he still pop in over there? I think he does. Jake. I think Jake Acapella will visit every once in a while. But anyway, we support each other with those shows on Saturday. It gives you a whole day of Star Citizen information. Hopefully you guys will be able to go over and join them, because they are also a fun bunch of people. So that's PodSat Saturday. So be sure to check them out. There are the times on the screen. We're going to go ahead and get you guys set to go visit with the Astropub. For those of you who are on YouTube with us today, thank you guys so much. We're getting more and more people each week who are watching us on YouTube. For those of you who are on Twitch, we are going to set up our raid so that we can go over and check out Paul Shelley. So we're going to go and get ready to send you guys over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us on tomorrow. Don't forget, we're also for the first time going to be doing our own party watch on CitizenCon. Watch party. I said party watch. Watch party. So if you want to be able to come in and join us in Discord with us, and we're going to have conversations between the different sessions. We're going to be streaming it that day. Hopefully you guys will be able to join us. If you're not with your own org, if you're with your org, we get it. We know you got to put your love there too. But if you want to hang out with us, we're going to be doing that on October 8th throughout CitizenCon, and we'll get more details to you on that as it comes out. So until then, I want to tell you guys, as always, take care of yourselves, Peace, love, and soul. And we'll see you guys real soon. Have fun. Have a good weekend.